The individuals who work at access media outlets like Kotaku, Polygon, and The Gamer only have themselves to blame for their irrelevancy. Over the years, people have moved away from the traditional media in favor of independent creators, and if they were actually in tune with their audiences, maybe their outlets wouldn't be failing so quickly. But Kotaku is now going into an article complaining about the fact that nobody in the industry acknowledged Dragon Age Day, even though their piece of modern audience slop Veilguard clearly killed the series. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I'm sure you all can guess that Kotaku wrote this piece about how far this series has fallen and how it's so unfair that EA and BioWare didn't acknowledge Dragon Age Day even though they put out a Dragon Age game last year. But we also are talking about them going into this article not acknowledging the problems with this game. They won't acknowledge the fact that the writers weren't talented, the game itself was extremely low quality, and that people are sick and tired of agendas being forced down their throats in entertainment constantly. Maybe if BioWare had actually hired some talented people to work on this project, it wouldn't be forgotten already, but it is, and it's better that way because this game truly and genuinely is one of the worst series continuations we have ever seen. They put the least amount of effort into this game, and it's not like it was low budget, it's not like they didn't have a big team, it's not like they faced any major hurdles with it. They had a decade to create it, they had hundreds of millions of dollars to create it, they had hundreds of people that worked on it, so there's really no excuse. But of course the access media is going to sit here and damage control and go, oh my gosh, these poor activists, how could this have happened to them? So yes, it was Dragon Age Day recently, and it came and went because this series is dead. There's no way we're ever going to get another Dragon Age game, at least anytime soon. Maybe in like 20 years, sure, they'll be looking through their catalog going, what can we reboot? Oh, let's go with Dragon Age, but it's not going to happen in the next decade. I'm certain of that, and really, I don't think BioWare's even going to be around that long, but it says December 4th is Dragon Age Day, the unofficial day fans of BioWare's fantasy RPG anthology celebrate the series. Last year, the studio earnestly participated. Dragon Age the Veilguard was only about a month old at the time, so BioWare released the game's incredible character creator for free and broke down early player choices on social media. This year, there wasn't a peep from the studio on the matter, not even a single mention of the franchise that once won Best Game at the Game Awards. Yeah, but it hasn't won Best Game at the Game Awards in years and years and years. Oh my gosh, this studio was popular once. That means you need to give it attention. Oh, this series was once beloved. That means you have to acknowledge its existence at every opportunity possible. That's an absolutely ridiculous request. A lot of people that used to be Dragon Age fans just want to forget about this pile of trash. They go on to say, if you're only passively paying attention, it might make sense for the studio to not make a big deal about a series without a sequel it's actively promoting, but for fans and the devs who spend decades working on Dragon Age, it's another insult to beloved games that seem to sometimes get the short end of the stick over their troubled development. And now they go into how it's not the writers that were a problem, it's not the game itself that was the problem, it is everyone else's fault, like EA. In the months since BioWare was gutted of veteran talent and Dragon Age the Veilguard was thrown under the bus by parent company Electronic Arts, developers have been candid about how the Dragon Age team felt like it wasn't treated fairly by the broader company. The Veilguard's messy production saw the game rebooted from a live service no one wanted into a single-player RPG that miraculously came out feeling like the character-driven epics BioWare is associated with despite being a decade in the works. It has a terrible user score, it didn't sell, and it completely and utterly failed, but is Kotaku going to talk about why? No, it's because you had a team of very cringe-worthy, underdeveloped, walking billboards for certain sexualities. It had modern audience agenda shoved into it from top to bottom. In the character creator, you had non-binary, you had top surgery scar toggles, you had characters like Tosh who really were only there to promote their sexuality, and it didn't feel like a game that had a lot of heart and soul put into it. They did away with the darker, grittier, in my opinion, more fantastical direction Dragon Age previously had went in, and instead they went for bright, colorful, neon slop, and nobody liked that. Everybody was disappointed, and obviously, when you are taking a game in such a drastic direction from the ones that came before, people are either going to fall in love with it or they're going to hate it. And in this case, it didn't work out well for them. And of course, Kotaku here isn't actually going to talk about just how bad it did. Dragon Age the Veilguard underperformed EA's expectations. We found out that apparently it failed by nearly 50%. It says EA is slashing its forecast for the fiscal year due to the underperformance of holiday games EA Sports FC 25 and Dragon Age of Veilguard. EA says the new Dragon Age reached around 1.5 million players, missing expectations by nearly 50%. And we also saw EA blame the underperformance of these games on basically everything but themselves, which is always fascinating when they decide to not acknowledge the problems, because we would have more respect for developers and writers and producers and companies if they just came out and said, yep, we completely understand this didn't resonate with our audience. We're going to try harder in the future to give you the experience you could ever want. And that didn't happen. Dragon Age of Veilguard's directors and all of the writers are also no longer at BioWare. And all I can really say is good riddance. They might have helped create games that were good decades ago, but what they did in the past doesn't reflect on the now. If now their mindset in the development process is completely different, if their mindset now is different from the good games that they made, and they aren't putting their best foot forward, they're going to create trash just like somebody who's brand new in the industry potentially could. So just because they have all of these big games under their belt doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a success. You can hope that their track record is good enough to hold onto a project and really bring it to new heights, but none of the people that worked on this game really seemed to do a good job. And well, if you're not good at your job, you don't deserve to have that job. We also see Tech for Gamers saying the same exact thing. EA and BioWare completely ignored Dragon Age Day amid deteriorating series quality. The future of the franchise looks grim, and I think that this is so funny because part of the reason why the series is so grim is because of the access media, because they constantly egg these companies on to add social agendas to their projects. Oh my gosh, you need to be able to have a certain amount of characters of different sexualities and races and ethnicities, and you need to be able to actually acknowledge hard problems that are going on in the real world, like being transgender, and oh, you need to add all of these things to your game, or else we're going to boycott it, or else we're going to trash it. I mean, look at what just happened the other day with Escape from Tarkov. I made another video on it. It'll be linked down below. But they literally trashed Escape from Tarkov because they didn't like the game, because it's not AAA slop. And then we found out that they were lying and they didn't even really play the game. They played about half the amount of time that they claimed that they did, and they said it was riddled with cheaters when they only played one singular PvP match. It is insane to see how much these people will lie and ultimately how much they will try to force companies to do exactly what they want. And well, their kind of hold on the industry isn't working anymore. Sure, they still are like in cahoots with these companies and some of these activist developers, but they are becoming more and more irrelevant every single day. And they realize that they can't convince average customers to do their bidding now. And we just point and laugh at them, which is exactly what's happening on social media, and they deserve it. Why didn't the target audience show up? Yeah, if you are going to sit here and demand modern audience content pushed into a game, don't you think that you should at least buy a copy or two? If the audience wants this content, why didn't they show up to buy it? Veilguard keeps on failing, but I thought it was a success. Get woke, go bro. To the top of the charts, Jason Schreier is at it again. What pizza and Mountain Dew produce Doom? What lattes and avocado toast produce Dragon Age the Veilguard? I'll never forgive BioWare for destroying what would have been my favorite game franchise. I waited almost 10 years. It's so funny to me when we see the media not getting their way, when we see the chuds get an epic victory, because you know that now they're going to lash out even more. No wonder and Kotaku are to blame, propping up the modern audience lie, an audience that simply doesn't exist. EA and others swallowed the BS right up, and now Dragon Age is another woke-turned IP dead in the water. It's just like the Saints Row reboot that killed a 30-year-old studio because they listened to the wrong group. And yes, I do think in this case, part of it is EA, because initially EA wanted them to go in a live service direction. But even if EA wanted them to go in that direction and they turned course, we're not just talking about the gameplay being a problem. We're talking about the writing being a problem. It doesn't matter if a game is live service or not. You can still put amazing writing into a live service game. I don't know what this type of excuse really means at this point. Like, oh my gosh, we had to change direction. Okay, you didn't have to change the writing except for maybe splitting it up into chapters and then maybe giving like a cliffhanger at the end of each chapter. So maybe you had to change like a 5% of your writing total. Otherwise, it's not a good excuse, and you need to stop giving that one to us. Have you, Kotaku, thought about telling BioWare to start making games gamers will actually play? And yeah, part of this is on the Access Media for peer pressuring these companies, and these companies bought it right up. And maybe if from the beginning they actually listened to the people who swiped their credit card, and they didn't actually listen to the Jannies in the industry, they didn't actually listen to the activists, they would have known from the beginning that this was never going to work, that Veilguard was always going to be a failure, but they didn't listen to us, and now they are paying for what they did. They are facing the consequences of their own actions, and Kotaku, Tech for Gamers, these outlets have the gall to complain about Dragon Age being ignored when ultimately this series is dead, and it's their fault. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.